There's a difference between the likelihood of an allele surviving, the likelihood of an allele reaching the point where it participates in a polymorphism, and the likelihood of an allele reaching the point where it's the only allele in the population. In fact, the only alleles that we have an expectation that anything like that will happen are beneficial alleles. Beneficial alleles, if the allele provides a greater fitness payoff than any other allele found at that locus in the population, then deterministically we have an expectation that that allele is going to increase in frequency until, in fact, it first is part of a polymorphism within the population, and if it remains the most fit allele until the point where that allele, in fact, is fixed within the population. If it's a neutral allele or deleterious allele, we don't expect these same things, and in fact, with neutral or deleterious alleles, the only thing that's going to increase their frequency to the point where they're participating in a polymorphism is in fact genetic drift. So it's completely stochastic. It's completely random whether or not those alleles in fact are going to reach the point where they are somewhat above their initial frequency within a population. With detrimental alleles, it's harder for them to increase in frequency because not only is it simply genetic drift that's increasing their frequency in the population, but natural selection is actively preventing them from increasing in frequency within the population. On the other hand, with a neutral allele, essentially by definition, their frequency within the population is dependent entirely upon genetic drift. It's not dependent upon natural selection at all. So natural selection increases the frequency of beneficial alleles, although that can be stalled by genetic drift, or in fact increased by genetic drift. Detrimental mutations, their increase in frequency within a population is actively thwarted by natural selection, essentially by definition. And with neutral alleles, the impact of natural selection is effectively zero.